Have you ever seen an organization, I mean, a company, a nonprofit, maybe even just a really effective team that just suddenly hits an invisible wall?
Hmm.
It's that profound, quiet vacuum that shows up when the visionary founder retires, or the key talent moves on, or the leaders just burn
It's
out.
the highest tax we pay for fragile leadership.
Exactly. And it makes you ask a really central question. Is the true measure of your success the projects you complete, or is it actually the leaders you manage to raise up and release?
And that tension you're describing between, personal accomplishment and generational impact, that's the core conflict we see across every thriving organization today.
Okay.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We're trying to move past this outdated idea of just finding a replacement. We want to unpack the principles behind, well, exponential leadership across generations.
So not just replacing one person with another.
No. We want to show you why the organizations that truly thrive are the ones that learn to multiply their influence, creating this continuous living chain of competency that can span decades.
Okay, let's unpack that immediately because that distinction is a total game changer. Leadership isn't some finite resource that just stops when you step down.
Right.
It's not a single act or a title. It's a continuous generational journey where influence expands exponentially. The central teaching here seems to be that waiting until a crisis hits, until that vacuum appears to develop leaders, is a luxury no one can afford anymore.
You have to build the bench constantly.
Absolutely.
And we have to start with the foundational math here, the essential difference between addition and multiplication in leadership.
Well, when we talk about leadership, especially in the corporate world, we usually talk about addition, right? Hitting quarterly metrics, increasing efficiency by, say, 10%, getting a promotion.
And those are tangible, measurable accomplishments. And addition is essential for immediate performance, don't get me wrong. But the research shows this linear approach. It severely limits long-term growth.
How so?
It overlooks the most powerful lever of sustained impact
Yeah.
multiplication. The core difference is deeply personal.
Yeah.
Addition asks, how much can I accomplish? Multiplication flips that completely. It asks, how many people can I empower to accomplish things far beyond my own reach?
I see. So it's like the difference between earning a flat salary for 40 years versus, I don't know, investing that money and letting compound interest take over.
Precisely. The results become radically different over time. And if you look into the historical and theological sources for this idea, it's one of the oldest blueprints for scale in existence.
You mean it goes way back?
Way back, we see it in the very early narratives of human stewardship, where the directive wasn't just improve the garden, but be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it.
So if we frame that for organizational leadership, that wasn't just a mandate for, population growth.
No, not at all. It was the original blueprint for stewardship and legacy, to multiply image bearers and extend order. The moment that ancient text commissions humanity, it's commissioning them to multiply their influence, not just maintain it.
So addition improves, multiplication transforms.
That's the contrast.
Yeah.
Addition improves things incrementally. You get a little better at a task. But multiplication, it transforms the entire environment around you by embedding your influence in other people.
And if we apply that to the modern environment, the why now becomes, well, pretty obvious.
Exactly. The pace of change and technological disruption today is just relentless. Markets shift faster than ever. So creating a structured system for leadership multiplication is no longer optional. It's a strategic imperative for resilience.
That sets the stage beautifully. So if multiplication is the goal, how do we actually build that leadership pipeline? Let's get into the blueprint, starting with what, to any modern consultant, would look like a wildly inefficient strategy.
Yes, radical focus. It's often called the scandal of investing in only 12.
Right.
If you study the historical case study of Jesus, he had massive crowds, unmatched public exposure. If he wanted immediate scale, he should have built, massive infrastructure. Instead, he invested the best of his time and his energy not in the crowds, but in a tiny circle of 12 people.
And this is where I want to push back a little, because that sounds completely inefficient. Why spend all your time on 12 people when you could be reaching thousands?
And that's the critical insight. Crowds may admire you, but only disciples, those you intentionally pour into, will reproduce you.
Preaching attracts, training multiplies.
Exactly. He wasn't building a ministry for himself. He was building ministers. And that kind of deep life-on-life formation requires proximity. They ate with him, walked with him. They watched him fail and succeed. He was transmitting his life, his judgment, his entire operational philosophy,
So it guarantees the influence becomes expansive after he's physically gone.
which is the very definition of multiplication.
So the strategy wasn't inefficiency, it was prioritization. Depth guaranteed reproduction, where, mere breadth would only guarantee temporary visibility.
Precisely, and this strategy gets formalized centuries later in one of the clearest formulas for exponential leadership we have, in the Apostle Paul's instruction to his young mentee, Timothy.
Right, the famous four-generation model.
That single verse, Paul, to Timothy, to faithful men who then teach others, it lays out 4 generations of leadership succession in a single breath.
The chain is clear.
But notice the requirement. It's countercultural. Timothy must entrust the teaching to faithful men.
Not the most charismatic, not the most skilled speakers,
Yeah.
but the trustworthy ones.
Correct. The sources really emphasize that multiplication depends not on talent or flashiness, but on trustworthiness and consistency of character.
It's about who you can rely on, not just who performs well in the spotlight.
Yes. And here is the profound moment that illustrates the whole exponential idea.
Yeah.
Paul never meets that 4th generation. He doesn't witness their ministry or get any recognition from them.
Wow. That's the ultimate act of releasing control. It proves it's about the mission, not about personal legacy.
Exactly.
The idea that the true success of your work might be found in people you've never even met, that's powerful. And that leads us directly into how that generational transfer endures. We need systems, right?
We need systems and a specific mindset, starting with the difference between a vision carrier and a vision multiplier.
Okay, what's the difference?
A vision carrier is the sprinter. They run hard, they model excellence, they build a fantastic movement, but the danger is they unintentionally centralize the mission around themselves.
Which makes the vision mortal. It's tied to their personality.
Yes, the bus factor is enormous. The vision multiplier, on the other hand, embeds and entrusts the vision. They distribute responsibility. They're building a culture where everyone sees themselves as an owner, as a potential future leader.
We see that multiplier preparation perfectly modeled in the Moses-Joshua relationship, which is like an ancient case study in succession planning.
It really is. Joshua was the successor who spent decades in the shadows. He wasn't a sudden hire. He endured the wilderness as Moses' attendant and learner.
He was right there, observing.
Physically present, watching Moses' failures, his decisions, how he handled pressure. The transfer of authority wasn't just a ceremony at the end. It was the culmination of 40 years of intentional life-on-life training.
So Moses' ultimate mission was actually to equip Joshua.
Exactly, to carry the work forward. It proves no leader completes the mission alone.
And if Moses prepared the successor, then the story of Elijah and Elisha shows that the successor should be prepared to surpass the mentor.
That's the genius of the double portion. Elisha asked for twice the impact of his predecessor. This illustrates that exponential mindset. Successors should be prepared to exceed their mentors. The goal shouldn't be maintenance, it has to be growth.
And to get that kind of scale, you need systems, not just individual relationships.
Right. You see this shift in the early sources. Look at the early church. As soon as they scaled and had cultural problems like the neglect of widows, what do?
But they created a new system.
They created deacons to manage practical needs. Later, Paul didn't just leave new churches to fend for themselves. He systematically established elders in every city. This decentralization is crucial. It makes influence scalable.
So we're talking about moving beyond just informal mentorship into building actual structure, which brings us to a core modern concept, the leadership pipeline.
The pipeline is the systematic way to achieve true multiplication. It demands we treat leadership development not as an optional perk, but as the primary output of the organization.
How do we build that? It sounds complicated.
It starts with defining the stages. First, identify potential. Look beyond just performance metrics to things like character, teachability, hunger.
So not just the loudest person in the room.
Often not. Second, train and mentor. That's the proximity piece we talked about. But third, and this is the most crucial element, stretch assignments.
Tell me more about those. What is a stretch assignment in practice?
It's graduated experiential engagement with safety nets. For an emerging leader, it's not just doing their current job better, it's challenging them beyond their comfort zone.
Like what?
Maybe chairing a task force outside their department, or leading a new low-stakes project, or managing a budget line they've never touched before. It forces them to practice judgment in a safe environment.
You cultivate leadership through necessary exposure, and then you have to actually release them.
Release and review. You give them genuine authority and then offer objective feedback. It's an iterative developmental process. Without it, You just can't get to that generational scale.
Okay, so we know the goal is multiplication and we have the blueprint, but we have to address the threats. What are the silent killers that halt this growth?
The first silent thief, and it's a big one, is complacency. This is the spiritual equivalent of entropy, that natural drift toward disorder if you don't consistently apply energy.
So, getting comfortable.
Yes, it shows up as rigid routines, ignoring feedback, relying on past achievements. The sources are clear. Generational leadership can't survive on the strength of memory alone. It requires constant renewal.
And the twin threat to that is the lone hero syndrome, which leads straight to burnout. This is rooted in that lie. If I don't do it, it won't get done right.
That creates the ultimate bottleneck. It hoards leadership, makes the mission fragile, and stifles the growth of everyone under that leader.
There's that great anecdote about Jethro advising Moses.
A brilliant ancient example. Moses was literally sitting from morning till evening, wearing himself out, trying to judge every single dispute.
He was trying to be the single source of wisdom for millions of people.
Exactly. Jethro's advice was essentially, what you are doing is not good. Appoint capable elders, teach them, and let them handle the small matters. That wasn't abdication, it was strategic multiplication.
The only way to scale and survive. Okay, and finally, the danger of static leadership, basically failing to adapt.
Static leadership clings to yesterday's strategy, yesterday's technology, yesterday's language. It creates a ceiling, and it risks obsolescence, alienating the next generation who need modern methods.
So the key isn't change for the sake of change.
No, it's discerned adaptability. You have to maintain your core mission and values while constantly innovating your methods. Your values are fixed, but your strategy has to be fluid.
This whole deep dive has been a massive perspective shift, moving from, personal accomplishment to profound stewardship. The sources argue so compellingly that your leadership isn't about personal ownership. It's a trust. It's a resource given to you for multiplication.
That really is the key takeaway. True success isn't evaluated at the end of your life. It's evaluated in the lives of those who come after you. To make this actionable, the source material suggests creating a 3 to 5 year legacy leadership plan.
A plan that shifts your focus from just managing today's activity to intentionally reproducing tomorrow's influence.
And it connects right back to that highest measure of leadership we talked about at the start. It's not how many people follow you, it's how many leaders rise because of you. That is the legacy that endures exponentially.
So we'll leave you with this final challenging question to consider as you wrap up this deep dive. What structures, habits, or cultural practices could you put in place today to ensure your influence resonates far beyond your direct involvement, continuing to inspire, cultivate, and multiply across the generations you will never personally meet?